Hi everyone, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today's video is using the mixed drinks stamp set with some texture in an unusual way. We're going to play up that brand new crinkled organdy ribbon to create a real fun layer on this card. Remember to head over to my blog. You're here from YouTube. You can click at the I button here at the top of the screen, which will navigate you right to today's blog post where the pictures, supplies, and the cutting dimensions will be for today's card. While you're there, make sure you check out my online classes tab. I've got a fun way for you to stamp with me at home. August Studio Stamps in the Mail includes a bundle of products, pre-cut supplies, a PDF, and a video, and a great chance for you to stamp with me from home. Let's get over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. You can get a good look at this card and see how cute the layers are. Lots of fun with the ribbon and the different punches. So let's get started. This is a piece of Whisper White cardstock. Remember, you can find all the cutting dimensions along with pictures and supplies over on my blog. If you're here from YouTube, click on the I button here at the top. If you use your mouse or finger over the screen, it'll pop up. That directs you right to this blog post. This is a bone folder. I like it to make that nice crisp crease. I've also cut a piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock, and all I'm going to do is add some adhesive on the back side of this. And I'm going to adhere this to the base of the card. This is just going to create a focal point just for a layer. You can see too that it's a very narrow piece of cardstock. So I just wanted a small trim of the white on the outside. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to bring in another piece of Whisper White cardstock. The stamp set that I'm using is called Mixed Drinks. Oh, so much fun. You can make everything from a milkshake to a beer stein, iced tea. You can have a great time with this. I also have a PDF tutorial over on my blog. Again, click the I button. It'll take you over there. Under the Online Classes tab, you'll find a whole bundle of tutorials on this exact same stamp set if you need more ideas. So the Berry Burst ink pad is what I'm going to use to create a background. But this ink is very, very dark, and I didn't want the images in the background to be too predominant. So I'm actually going to stamp off. What that means with this little umbrella is I'm going to ink it up, and I'm going to stamp off on my scratch paper, which is going to reduce the overall shade. And all I'm going to do now is just stamp a few of these umbrellas in different directions across the paper diagonally. Now some you're going to see and some you're not going to see, which is fine, but I just want some sort of a pattern on here just to give it a little bit of visual interest when I go to put my card together. Alright, so I'm going to stamp off that excess ink. I have my stamp and scrub just off camera, so I'm cleaning my stamp wet and dry. I'm going to set that aside. I have an extra piece of white cardstock here. This is actually just a scrap. And I'm using Memento ink. I'm a big fan of the Memento ink when I'm using photopolymer, which are these completely clear stamps. I find it doesn't stain as badly as the basic black. So this is the tall glass that's inside that stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it here on my scrap paper. And then there's actually a fill for this glass. It's a solid image of the exact same thing. Let me just cap that, switch this over back to my Berry Burst, but I don't want it to be too dark. So I'm going to ink this up again, and I'm also going to stamp off. And now I'm going to fill the glass. I want to add the umbrella to the glass as well, so I'm grabbing the umbrella image here. And this time I'm going to go full strength with this image. And I'm actually going to stamp it so that the umbrella is just kind of floating in the cup and hanging. And I'm going to switch over to Crushed Curry. And this is going to be that little lemon wedge on the side of the cup. I'm going to ink that up as well, and then I'm just going to attach that here. What I want to do now is I want to add a little bit of color to that umbrella. So I'm going to bring in a blender pen. There's a chemical in the barrel of the pen that moistens the tips, and both sides are exactly the same. And you're not going to want to put it in the ink pad. That would actually not be a good thing. So I'm actually going to close up my pad, and I'm going to squeeze it from the back, and they're quite flexible. And you can see that it's put a well of ink inside the lid. This is where you're going to watercolor from, whether using an aqua painter, a paintbrush, or a blender pen. Now the tips do get stained with usage. I always like to check and make sure that it's clear before I get started so I don't carry over a different color. And you can see how strong this shade is. So I'm going to take a little ink and I'm going to take it over here and I'm going to tone it down a little bit. And I'm actually just going to use this kind of like a marker. And I'm just going to color in that umbrella just so it has a little bit of pigmentation inside of there. If you want the umbrella white, then obviously you would just leave it. Okay, so I'm going to close that up. And then we're going to clean the blender pen. You're going to hold it horizontally and you're going to roll it on your scratch paper until it runs clear. And then once it's clear, you're good to go to change it to another color. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 2-inch circle punch and I'm going to punch out this image. I'm just going to center it the best that I can. Give that a punch. Then I'm also going to want to border this. So I chose to use the brand new Starburst punch. Really fun. And I'm going to punch that out of the Berry Burst cardstock. One of the great things about Stampin' Up! Products is the color coordination. It's just magnificent thing. And then I've got another scrap here of Daffodil Delight. And that is actually going to be with the 2 1/4 inch punch. And that's going to give us those layers that we want behind this image. All right, so let's attach these. I'm going to use my snail adhesive, and I put a little adhesive on the back of the image. I'm going to layer that on top of that Starburst. I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to layer that on top of the 2 1/4 inch circle punch. All right, so let's go back over to the base of the card. I don't want to adhere it yet because I want to make sure that I get the other elements on my card. So let me show you what I mean. We've got some designer series paper. This one comes from the Color Theory Designer Series paper stack. Such a fun package because the colors are graduated, almost an ombre effect. And there's also some papers that look like paint chips. And this one comes from the Fresh Florals in color pack. So this is going to add some texture to the card. And I'm going to actually stamp the greeting on this strip. So I'm going to use the Memento ink for that. And the stamp that says, "Every hour with you is a happy one." So I'm going to stamp this way over to the left. I'm going to give myself just a little bit of room in order to trim the edge. I'm going to take my scissors and I want a little bit of an angled cut from one edge down to the other. There's really no science involved. I just cut it on an angle. So let's go ahead and get these pieces mounted. So I'm going to add a little bit of snail adhesive to the back of my strip. And then I'm just going to eye on where I want this. So I'm going to mount this all the way over to the edge here. And then this little tiny piece of designer paper that I cut, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to come up from the top to the bottom. Can you see how small this is? Well, this is my best friend for applying adhesive to small areas. This is the silicone craft sheet. Adhesive, when it's placed on there, will not stick to this work surface. It just rubs right off, which keeps your actual paper underneath you nice and clean and sticky free. Really enjoy that. And then that is going to get mounted here, right on top of the other one. All right, and now let's add that ribbon. This is the Berry Burst seam binding, and I love that crinkled, worn look. Really fun. But you're going to see here on my original card that I actually bunched it up, and I want to show you how I did that. You'll need tear and tape adhesive. It's really, really strong, and you're going to cut it the length that you want this to go. So I'm going to actually just project that I want it right around here. I'm going to lay it right on there, and here comes the tear part of the tear and tape. You can just rip that. You don't even need to gunk up your scissors. I'm going to burnish that down, which means rub that paper right inside there, because I want to make sure that when I go to lift this paper backing, they don't actually lift the tape. Again, very, very sticky. So I'm going to take part of this and I'm going to leave it here off to the side because I'm going to tuck that to the back when I'm done. All you're going to do is you're going to start by just laying areas of the ribbon down. Now I cut the ribbon about twice the length that I was going to want to go across. And it's not going to lay flat. So if you're looking for this to lay flat, it's not going to do that. So I'm just going to make sure that I cover up all that tape as I work around and get some pleating as I go. And then when I get to the end, I think I'm just about there. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut it on an angle, just like I did those papers. There's a couple things you can do. You can cut from the back, or in my case, I actually took a glue dot and I placed it on the back of the cardstock and then just wrapped this to the rear. Seam binding does have a tendency to fray a little bit on the ends, but I kind of liked that little grungy look. All right, so now let's add this to the base of the card that we originally put together. So I've got adhesive in my corners. I'm going to put a little bit around that ribbon because I want to make sure that's going to stay well in place on the back side. And then I'm just going to visually mount this so that we've got a nice little border. I'm going to rub from the back. Make sure I don't have ink in my fingers and get it on my card. And remember our image? Well, we're going to bring in some dimensionals to give this a little bit of a lift. We've got a few left on here, so let's use these. I've been getting in the practice of adding them symmetrically. My mom is a receiver of a lot of my cards, and she tells me that by the time they go through the mail machine at the post office, that sometimes they're a little off balance when they come. So I'm just being a little bit more generous nowadays with those dimensionals. All right, and so I'm going to mount that here. Okay, last but not least, in true fashion here in the Stamp Studio, I love bling. And these glitter enamel dots are a fabulous thing. They graduate in color from light, which is almost like a white, just a hint of color, over to a darker shade. And they come in 4 different colors: olive, berry, curry, and dapper denim. And so I'm going to grab the light yellow one. It's almost a white color. And I'm going to lay that on my card over here. And I'm going to go with a little bit darker one. And they have a little bit of varying sizes too. And then I'm going to go over to even darker yet. I'm going to place that last one up around here at the top. They already have glue dots on the back, which makes them really easy to use. So kind of fun, lots of fun texture going on there. Here's the card we created today and the one I made before you joined me. Remember, head over to my blog, click on the I button here at the top. It'll navigate you there for pictures, cutting dimensions, and supplies. These supplies are all available in my online store, and I offer great online exclusive rewards for your orders. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I hope to see you next time. Have a great day.